What's up, dudes? This is Dying Food coming back at you with another video today, and today I wanted to talk about World War II. And when I say World War II, I'm not talking about Call of Duty World War II. What I mean when I say this is I want to talk about World War II as a historical conflict, and does this conflict make a good setting for video games in the current video game climate? Real quick first, before we get into it, if you would like to support this channel, then I would please ask that you leave a thumbs up on this video. And if you're new to this channel, then please feel free to subscribe for video game content, including, but not limited to, all things going on with Black Ops 4, as well as bringing you Call of Duty content from all titles, both current and past. Without further ado, let's get into it, man. Let's talk about World War II here. So if you've been around for a while, if you've been playing video games for a long time, then you're gonna remember in about the early to mid 2000s, there were literally hundreds of World War II themed games. And I'm not exaggerating when I say hundreds. It got to a point where the vast majority of video game commercials that you saw on TV were advertising a World War II game to you. Some of these franchises included games like Medal of Honor. There were about a dozen of those games, the earlier Battlefield games, there was Day of Defeat, there was Brothers in Arms, and of course there was Call of Duty, amongst literally hundreds of others that you've never even heard of. And why have you never heard of most of these games? Well, really the short answer is that they just refuse to change with the market. But the other answer could be that this genre of video games just got burnt out and people got tired of it. See, video games were so different back then, man. It was just a completely different world if you were a gamer. Playing games online against other people didn't even exist. It wasn't even a thing back then. So just about all those games that I mentioned before came out and they were single player only. And when multiplayer did appear later down the road, just to put it lightly, it was nothing like it was today, not even close. So back then, pretty much all the rage in video games was just all these single-player World War II themed games, which is just a campaign. And side note, the campaigns were hard. Like, they were hard to beat. And that's because that's all you had, right? There was nothing else to do in the game. Once you beat that single-player campaign, the game is over, and that's it. You got your money's worth. So they made sure the games were actually hard to beat. And after so many of these games come out, I think people started saying, hey, how many times am I gonna be storming the beach in Normandy with an M1 Garand killing Germans? And people started to really want something different out of these first-person shooting games. Enter Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare in 2007. This game took the world absolutely by storm. It was the first widely available on console, modern military-style first-person shooting game that had an online multiplayer component that actually worked. You know, not to sound like the old man here on YouTube, but I really don't think that the younger crowd understands like how crazy COD 4 was when it came out. It would almost be like, picture what Fortnite is doing today and what's happening with Fortnite today. It was on that level. It was so big. It was the biggest thing in the world. Everyone was talking about COD 4. So naturally, when competitors began to see the success of COD 4 and how big it had become, the copycats all entered the market. And really kind of as fast as it started, suddenly there were no more World War II games coming out, and game developers and publishers kind of left the whole genre in the past. And you guys pretty much know the story from there. COD went on to become one of the biggest video games in the world for many years. It still is. The Battlefield franchise learned to adapt and they managed to stay afloat, and they're still doing pretty well today. Then of course Halo was still going pretty strong back then, and COD and Halo are able to exist in the same universe, I think. And so the story goes that all these companies came along, everyone was trying to create the COD killer, and no one could really take out Call of Duty. It was way too popular, all the other games sucked, and very few could make a game that could even slightly compete with it, let alone actually compete with it. Many years of that ensue, nothing really changes. Fast forward to 2013 with COD Ghosts, and once again the Call of Duty community is calling for change. But this time, the change they get is 2014's release of Advanced Warfare, a futuristic take on Call of Duty with a whole new movement system that no one had ever thought would be possible in Call of Duty. A lot of people jumped ship on this game, but I think Activision felt that it was still the necessary steps it needed to take in order to keep Call of Duty alive and well. And Advanced Warfare was the first of 3 examples that we would see of change to the Call of Duty series. In 2015, Black Ops 3 came out, and it was once again another futuristic Call of Duty game. A lot of people were a lot more forgiving towards this game because A, it was developed by Treyarch, and B, it had the name Black Ops in it, which had become the most popular sub-franchise in the series. That was all fun and games, minus a few questionable supply drop system antics. And then in 2016, we finally arrived to the announcement of Infinite Warfare, which just was met with complete and utter absolute backlash of all types to the very max level it could have possibly been. That was quite a hell of a year for the Call of Duty community, to say the least. And it was right around this time that there was just so much outcry going on in our community of people saying, please just bring Call of Duty back to its roots. Please make a game that's set in reality, maybe a World War II themed game or Vietnam, something that takes place in a historical setting. That's what we really want, right? And then out of nowhere, boom, we get it. We get exactly what we want. Call of Duty World War II is announced in the beginning of 2017, and everybody is just so happy, ecstatic. Just there's so much joy in our community. People are finally happy again. The community is going to unite, and everything's going to be okay, and we're just going to sing around a campfire and be happy. Well, unfortunately, around that time, we seem to have forgotten that we're the Call of Duty community, and we're never happy with anything. This game had a lot of legitimate problems when it launched, and I will fully acknowledge that. But here's one thing that I saw a lot that I was really surprised to see, and that was people complaining about the lack of customization and the lack of content in the game. And the obvious response to that is, hey, newsflash, it's a World War II themed game and it has to be authentic. You can't just pump out all these crazy, funny, bright colored outfits for people to wear. That's not authentic. You can't just create these DLC map packs of these crazy locations like being on a picnic table with french fries and beers around you. That's certainly not authentic either. No, everything that's done has to be grounded in reality because it's World War II, it's an actual thing that actually happened. See, here's what happened during all those years when we were wishing that Call of Duty would just go back to its roots. We didn't even realize that we were getting spoiled rotten by games like Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, and Infinite Warfare, because since those games were not grounded in reality, they didn't have to stay true to anything. The developers had the creative freedom to make up whatever they wanted. They could have crazy guns, crazy camos, crazy maps, crazy movement systems. They could have things like specialists. You could be fighting on the moon and on different planets. And that was all fun and games until World War II came out, and all of a sudden, that creative freedom was taken away from the developers because now everything has to actually fit the setting of the game. And suddenly, people started complaining about the game because the customization was very limited as far as uniforms, weapons, camos, skins, calling cards, emblems, anything, you name it. It all has to be realistic and there's just simply no creative freedom anymore. And the tragic irony is that the games that got us all used to having all those things in the game were the 3 games that people complained the most about. And those games were the ones that had all the cosmetic items. And guess what? You can't have your cake and eat it too. Back in the day, man, when you bought a video game, you bought one single video game and that was it. Like I said at the beginning of the video, you played through it one time and that's it. You beat the game. Remember the feeling of beating a game? It was a pretty good feeling. Now, when a game launches, it's a continuous endeavor by the developers. It's like creating the actual game itself is only the beginning. Once the game is out, the developers has to consistently have a schedule for content, updates, and other things coming to the game in order to keep people interested in it. Because our attention spans have grown so short that if there's no content update for a month or two, people are going to jump ship. And that's fine, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. We have the technology to do so now, but we gotta remember when all those World War II games were in their heyday back in the day, there was no such maintenance involved with video games, and therefore we didn't really feel the burn of having a quote, lack of content, because the story itself was the content. I think this is one of the biggest reasons that World War II just cannot work in today's video game climate. There are simply too many restrictions for post-launch content, and unfortunately, people just find that content to be boring. Another great example of a video game that fell victim to this mentality is Battlefield 1. Same exact thing. Battlefield took some kind of weird turns with Battlefield Hardline, and the community was not satisfied with it. So they went back in time to World War I, which I know is not World War II, but it's a similar time period with similar weaponry. And shortly after that game came out, their community ended up really hating the game a lot. And a lot of Battlefield players ended up saying, oh, I went back to Battlefield 4 because it was just better. There was more customization, there was more to do, the progression was better, the vehicles were better, everything was just better. I'll give you one more example of a failed World War game, and that would be Battalion 1944. When this game was announced, it was all the hype because it came out during Black Ops 3, people were tired of the futuristic settings, and the trailer made it seem like this game was going to be kind of a godsend. Well, it wasn't a godsend at all, because when it came out, it had a very lukewarm reception, and a lot of people jumped ship pretty quickly on this game. If you go and look at the concurrent player count right now, it's absolutely dismal, at right around approximately 100 players concurrently. So, after looking at a few of these cases, I have come to my own conclusion that I do not believe World War II is a suitable setting for a modern video game, mainly because it puts too many restrictions on the developers for post-launch content and cosmetic DLC. And honestly, I think it's really sad because I thought that we were ready to give up some of the luxuries that we have grown used to over the past couple of years in order to have some authenticity in our games again, but it's just not the case. We're not satisfied with it, so it's going to have to be something else. And for this reason, I don't think we're going to see another World War II game in the Call of Duty franchise again for a very long time, if ever. Fellas, What do y'all think? Can a World War II theme work in a modern video game, or did we make a mistake in thinking that we wanted something when we didn't actually want it? As always, I'm always interested to know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below, so let me know what you think about this. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up as it really helps the channel out. A big thank you to all you guys for all the support on my channel here recently. Thank you so much. You guys are the coolest dudes ever. And if you're new to this channel, or if this is the first video of mine you've seen, then please feel free to subscribe to stay up to date with everything going on with Black Ops 4, as well as bringing you Call of Duty content from all titles, both current and past. And lastly, make sure to follow me on Twitter so you can get the heads up of when we're going to be streaming. Links in the description down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.